Hello and welcome to episode 8 of Shooting the Breeze, the formal gun podcast of WaltonPA.com. And as you would imagine, with a name like WaltonPA.com, I am Walt, your host, and I've got gun stuff to talk about. Unlike last week, where I was really pressed for time, even though I'm still I'm a little pressed for time, but last week I had a real trouble getting the show together, and it was very last minute, and it was kind of disorganized. This time around, I've got things a little more organized. I've got everything filled up, so I've got all the news topics, all the featured topics taken care of. I have more than enough news this week. I had to cut some stuff away and prune it down to 3 topics that I found most interesting out of all the things that I've read. Featured content was a little tough to come by this week. I wound up going with something I wouldn't have ordinarily went with, but we'll discuss that when the time is right. So that is the little introduction to this particular show. I've got to get my cigar lit and ready to go, and then we're going to roll right into the news. Alright, well, I got my cigar lit, and it is time for the news. So let's get this show on the road and get rolling, because I have a feeling that this one may wind up being a little bit long. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. Now, the first piece of news comes from NWCN.com, and it is entitled, DSHS Revokes License of Spokane Valley Adult Home Over Gun Concerns. Looks like it's written by Katie Utens, September 21st. And there's some video that is associated with this clip. It's actually just a news story. If I can embed it, I will put it into the show notes. I'm not quite sure if I can, but I'll give it a shot. But the story goes like this. Spokane Valley. A Spokane Valley man said the Department of Social and Health Services has revoked the license of his adult family home because he carries a concealed weapon and has a shotgun locked up in his room. Soon, 6 elderly people that live there may be looking for a new home. According to the DSHS investigation, Spencer Lowell and his father failed to provide a safe adult family home. Lowell has operated Valley Pines Retirement Home for the last 3 years with his father. He also carries a concealed weapon, a Smith & Wesson .380. We violated no laws, and I have all the proper permits to carry a concealed pistol, Lowell said. On August 29th, DSHS investigated Lowell and the adult family home, which houses 6 elderly people. The investigators were escorted by Spokane Valley police officers. Lowell recorded the investigation on the cell phone camera. On the camera, an investigator asked Lowell what kind of weapons Lowell has in the house. Lowell replied he keeps a shotgun locked in the safe in the caregiver's room, and he only has access to it. Then at night, when he sleeps, he locks his pistol inside also. But according to documents given to us by Lowell, obtained through DSHS, the agency said he's not locking up the guns correctly. Their investigators determined his actions display an inability to care for residents. The documents said Lowell's father, as the provider, demonstrated that he lacked judgment, understanding, and ability to oversee the operation. Documents also stated the provider failed to maintain a safe adult family home environment per the stated need for weapons on the premises for defense. Additionally, the provider failed to ensure that all firearms on the premise were legal or were locked up and accessible only to the authorized persons. DSHS released this statement to KREM2 News through their media manager. Our action to revoke the license of the adult family home is based on state laws intended to ensure the safety of 6 vulnerable adults who live there and ensure that all firearms on premises are safely locked away and accessible only to authorized persons. The issue is not gun rights, but safety for the residents being cared for in the home. The action is being appealed and will be resolved in an administrative hearings process. KREM2's Kate Utens asked Lowell about any previous citations. He said he has had several in the past, but they were resolved and unrelated to the weapons. The state didn't mention any of the past citations as reasons for the current shutdown. There's a little bit more information if you watch the video news clip. Again, if I can get it embedded into the show notes, I will do that. But he's carrying a Smith & Wesson Bodyguard, a 380, the automatic version. He's carrying it around in his pocket throughout the day, and in the evening it sounds like he's locking that pistol up as well as a shotgun in a safe in a caregiver's room. And I thought it was kind of interesting in that the investigation were the investigators doing the DSHS stuff were escorted by police officers for the walkthrough, as if Mr. Lau was a danger to them. Granted, we're only seeing one side of this story based on this news article, but it really sounds like the deck was kind of stacked against this caregiver based on what's going on, or based on what I'm reading. In addition, I thought it was kind of funny that the state deems Mr. Lau unfit to care for these people just because he feels as though he needs a firearm to protect himself and his loved ones. I'm not quite sure I understand that whole thing. As if, you know, like if you carry a gun, you're insecure or unsafe about yourself and you're a potential danger. Yeah, you should have less people around you, or you shouldn't care for people because you feel the need to defend yourself. You shouldn't carry that gun as an insurance policy in the event that you are attacked and need to protect yourself. So it was kind of strange seeing that they're using this angle to go towards him. I'm not quite sure how these guns are being locked up or how his father comes into play, but it's an interesting article nonetheless, and I'm curious to see where this goes and the appeal process and things like that, because if he's doing everything as the news article says, he's locking the guns up in the evening. No one has access to those firearms except for him, the shotgun being in a safe in the caregiver's room. Obviously, the adults living on the premises shouldn't be able to get into the caregiver's room or in the safe. And I would consider the pocket pistol that the Mr. Lau, I believe, is carrying to be completely in his control and inaccessible to the other residents unless they bum rushed him and you know, pulled it out of his pocket. But you know, I think doing anything more than carrying it on your person would be a bit extreme, especially for a self-defense situation where you're carrying it to protect yourself and your family and potentially your residents as well. And I'm not quite sure why there are such strict regulations for these adult facilities. I don't know whether there's an increased suicide rate among retirement communities or assisted living homes, but it just seems a bit extreme to require that there be this level of security with guns around adults. I mean, there should be security around firearms no matter what, but just the fact that this caregiver has a firearm on him and the state sees that as a problem is, I don't know, it's just a little disturbing, I guess, at least to me. But I've rambled on enough about this news article, so let's get rolling into the second one. Alright, let's get started with news item number 2. And this one comes from the Daily Tribune, serving southeastern Oakland County. And this is entitled, "Women Are Arming Themselves for Protection and Sport," by Gina Davis, Daily Tribune staff writer. More and more ladies are packing heat. Angela Polkowski, Wendy Lisk, and Kitty Valley have all taken pistol training at the Ultimate Brown Bear shooting range, and they attend the range on a regular basis to shoot and socialize. "Every Tuesday night is ladies' night," said Mary Polkowski, founder of the Ultimate Protection Firearm Training Academy, and one of the first women in the area to design, build, and operate a firearm shooting range. As she explained in the previous report, Ultimate does private lessons, handgun lessons, and it offers a lot of classes and things for the family. Ultimately, it's a family range, she said. Imagine that, a family environment at a gun range. I love it. Okay, get back on track. That includes her husband, Alan, who shares in the business of teaching individuals how to handle a gun properly, safely, and with confidence, and their daughter, Angela. I think it's a good thing for all women to know, said Angela, 23. I would tell anyone who wants to learn to take a private lesson first. Then she smiled and added, from my mom, really. I've seen many women who are scared and then after their lesson felt a million times better about it. Wendy concurs. My husband travels for work, so I was home alone a lot with the kids, Lisk said. Living in Kentucky at the time, her husband convinced her to take a concealed weapons permit class, which was not a good experience. The first gun put in her hand was a .45 pistol. Actually, it's a 45 millimeter pistol. That's not quite right, but anyway. The noise of the gun and the whole environment scared me, Lisk said. She completed the class and got her license, but she never touched a gun again. Then the family moved to Michigan, where she decided to give the gun thing another try. This time it was different. Not only was the environment conducive to a woman, but she was taught on a gun that she was comfortable with. Her pistol of choice has since become a Springfield Armory XD9 semi-automatic. They love adding millimeter to the end of the calibers. In this case, it's correct, XD9 millimeter semi-automatic. But women can shoot any gun that a man can shoot, provided they have learned the proper techniques, said Polkowski, whose previous career as an accomplished piano player in a band is what set her interest in firearms in motion. At the end of the night, they would want to get out as fast as possible, she said, recalling the earlier gigs with her band, and you would be standing in the dark outside a banquet hall. You're in a vulnerable situation because you have all the equipment. The need for safety led her to take several self-defense and firearm training classes. In 1995, she went so far as to create her own academy, the Ultimate Protection Firearm Training. Word of her achievements and expertise got around, and on several occasions she not only appeared as a guest on Ted Nugent's radio show, but was enlisted to help out at his hunting camps. She provided the training for the women participating. This is a two-part news article I had to click on through, and I hate when they do that. It's for nothing but page views and extra advertising, but I digress. If you visit Alan and Mary Polkowski's website for the Academy, there's a quote there from Ted. They have dedicated their lives to training. Mary is the greatest trainer, in my knowledge, in Michigan. I'm more of a hobbyist at this point, said Valley, who has attended the range as a date night with her husband, and handgun training classes geared for women. For me, the idea of shooting a person is a little overwhelming. Yet the more she knows about self-defense, the less likely she is to need to shoot anyone. We teach both men and women to be aware of their surroundings, to walk with a purpose, heads up and observant of people and events that are occurring around them, to be alert and prepared to react if needed, said Polkowski. Ultimate Brown Bear Shooting Range is at 46853 Gradient near 21 Mile Road inside Brown Bear Sporting Goods in Chesterfield Township. Hours, Monday through Friday, blah, 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 and that's the end of the article. So, really interesting article about getting women training with firearms. And, you know, I always like to see these types of articles. I don't remember if I read an article on training for women or I listened to it on a podcast, but it was really interesting. And there was, I think I may have listened to it on a podcast, but this one woman opened up a training facility. She had moved from one state to another, and she called the local range asking for information on women shooting at their club. And at that particular time, there was no program, so the president of the club offered her the opportunity to start a women's organization within the club. And, you know, it grew and just became very, very popular and very supported by the community and by the male shooters in the club. And I love hearing things about that. I used to really enjoy taking my wife to the range. We would go shoot and just make a morning out of it. It was a lot of fun. She stopped shooting when she got pregnant, and I haven't been able to drag her back to the range since. With us having a little daughter, a 15-month-old running around the house, it's really difficult to get up and go to the range in the morning without trying to find a babysitter to come to the house, or we have to drive all the way to the babysitter and drop my daughter off and head to the range. So we haven't been able to arrange that, but it's something I'd really love to do with my wife again. It was a hobby that we really enjoyed together. And I'm in full support of training programs for women. I think they're fantastic. My wife loved the program that she went through. It was just a basic pistol safety class, but the instructor was a woman and she had a great time. I work with a guy whose wife is getting into shooting. She went to a couple of women's seminars or women's shooting events, and he was telling me that she had a fantastic time. And it's a great thing. The sport's growing, or the shooting sports are growing. They're for the whole family. It's not just a male affair. So it's great to hear about these types of things. Alright, time for the last piece of news, and I really debated on whether or not I wanted to include this piece of news or do something different. And I was going back and forth, and I finally decided, you know what, I might as well just do this. People are probably sick of hearing about this guy at the zoo that's suing the city over him being removed from public property over open carry, but I keep seeing little tidbits about this story, so we're seeing more development as it goes on, and I just thought it was kind of interesting and worth featuring in the podcast again. So, with that said, let's talk more about this open carrier at the zoo. And this one is entitled "Indiana Gun Owner Sues City Over Removal from Zoo." Evansville, Indiana. An Evansville man has sued the city, claiming police violated a new state law when they made him leave the Mesker Park Zoo for refusing to cover a gun on his hip. An attorney for Benjamin A. Magenheimer said the man was singled out because he was carrying a gun, and police and zoo employees clearly violated a new law that allows local governments to ban guns from only buildings that house courtrooms. Local ordinance banning firearms from other locations, such as libraries and parks, are no longer allowed. According to a police report, zoo officials called police September 10th after several patrons complained about a man who was visibly carrying a handgun. When one of the officers asked him to conceal the weapon, the man refused and started getting loud and causing a scene, the report said. Officers asked the man to leave the zoo because he was frightening other patrons, the report said. He refused and police escorted him out. After he left, zoo staff reportedly told police that Magenheimer told them he could not be denied his right to bear arms. Magenheimer has a license to carry a gun and had a copy on his person at the time, the suit said. Gun licenses do not require concealment, the newspaper reported. Magenheimer's attorney, Guy Relford, of Zionsville, disputed the police report's claim that Magenheimer was argumentative. At no point did he become disorderly in any way, Relford said. But City Attorney David Jones said Magenheimer was removed from the zoo for causing a disturbance, not just for carrying a gun. He said the city would fight the lawsuit, which was filed Friday in Vanderburg Circuit Court. To me, it's not about the gun. I don't think you have a right to intimidate or frighten people or create a disturbance create the disturbance he created. To go into a petting zoo area with a gun where there are children, he said, that's just idiotic. The lawsuit names Evansville and its Department of Parks and Recreation as defendants. It seeks financial damages, a court declaration finding the city actions were illegal, and an injunction preventing future similar actions by the city. Jones said Evansville has no ordinances or policies that restrict firearms. He said city officials reviewed the issues after the law was passed this summer. They took effect July 1st. Jones said the law doesn't give the local governments much leeway. It's poorly written. I don't think it was given much thought as to situations such as this, he said. Relford also is representing two clients in a similar lawsuit against Hammond that was filed after the city council rejected an ordinance that would have brought local laws in line with state change. The city directed its police officers not to enforce Hammond's ban on carrying firearms in municipal buildings earlier this month, but the city's law against carrying guns in public buildings and parks remains in place. So we're seeing a little bit more development on this story since the last time I read it, and I read part of the press release from the attorney. But there were a couple of things in here that just kind of stood out like a sore thumb to me. And one of those things was that there's I'm looking. I should have highlighted parts of this article, but I didn't. But Okay, this particular thing from Jones, he says, "To me, it's not about the gun. I don't think you have a right to intimidate or frighten people or create a disturbance that he created. To go into a petting zoo area with a gun where there are children, that's just idiotic," Jones said. That's his personal opinion. There's no law against it. It's just one of those things where agree with it or don't agree with it. There's no law against it. So either get enough support behind you and change the law, or just deal with it. There's some more interesting little tidbits in here where he makes a comment about it's not just about the gun. So it's not just about the gun, but part of it is about the gun. And if any of it is about the gun, you shouldn't be evicting or ejecting this guy from the zoo to begin with. Another thing that I thought was kind of interesting was this quote down here. Jones said Evansville has no ordinances or policies that restrict firearms, he said. He said city officials reviewed the issue after the law was passed this summer. The law took effect July 1st. Jones said the law doesn't give governments much leeway. It's poorly written. I don't think it was given much thought as to situations such as this. So basically, because the law doesn't have a way for him to get around it, it's poorly written, which I thought was kind of funny. The law seems pretty clear about this situation. If the building doesn't hold a courthouse or isn't a federal building, then you are permitted to carry there, either concealed or open, depending on how the state's set up. I'm really not sure. Open carry is legal, but I don't know if it requires a license to carry firearms or anything like that. But regardless, it sounds pretty clear, but because this guy doesn't find any leeway in the law to make things up as he goes, it's poorly written. So there was just a couple of things that I found of interest that jumped out at me. Unless there's a major development on the story, this will be the end of the open carry, concealed carry kind of a thing that I'm doing here. Again, as I said in the past, I'm not an open carry guy. I'm not comfortable with the concept of open carry for myself. If you are going to open carry, especially in the state of Pennsylvania, you need to be very well versed on the laws, because there seem to be a lot of people that get hassled over it, despite it being perfectly legal. And I'm not comfortable with the idea of being hassled over open carry, so personally I don't do it. If you choose to open carry, that's your business, and I don't have any problems with it. So, regardless of how you carry your gun, have at it as long as it's legal. Well, this is the part of the show where I scour Google Reader and I pick out some of the more interesting blog posts and feature them. This is anything kind of goes here. I follow a variety of gun blogs and shooting blogs and things like that, and anything that seems interesting, I star it, and then I come back to it later, and then I pick through it and decide what goes on the podcast. And this time around, there's an awful lot of it from Masad Ayub, but the first piece of featured content that I have is from the Gun Rights Policy Conference. Now, Masad Ayub was in attendance, as well as several other people in the gun industry, and bloggers and radio network people as well. And basically, this is a conference sponsored by the Second Amendment Foundation and the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms. And basically, it's just a group of people get together in it sounds like a hotel conference room with a lot of people in attendance, and industry people and activists and things take the stage, and they discuss what's going on with gun policy throughout the country. And it's pretty interesting, because bloggers seem to have made a lot of headway as of late with the Fast and Furious stuff, and some of that was discussed in the Gun Rights Policy Conference, and there was a variety of other things that were discussed from stuff on the Heller case and where gun rights are going in the country, and where things are expected. And it's been pretty interesting since this one article was published, which is entitled Gun Rights Policy Conference Day 1. Mass has posted Day 2 coverage, which builds on this, and again is more interesting. It's a multi-day event. I think it's 3 days, and I believe it's something like this year. I think it was September 23rd, 24th, and 25th. but I don't remember exactly. I haven't been following the coverage as much as I should have been. I did read Mass's article, both of them actually, and there's a whole lot of information that looks like it was put together from Mark over at the Gun Rights Radio Network. He was there, and he was doing his best to do some live coverage, but I'm not quite sure whether or not it worked out. I was talking to him on Twitter and a little bit on Ustream on the first day of the conference when he was trying to set up and do a live broadcast so that anyone at home at their computer could log into Ustream and watch a live feed of the event. Well, it turns out that there was a union issue at the conference or something like that, and Mark was going to be charged like $1,000 to plug his camcorder and laptop in and use a table. So I'm not quite sure whether he was able to get anything done live or not. I know he was talking about doing some recordings from the hotel room with some of the guests, and I was really looking forward to watching it. I wasn't able to catch it live, but I want to go back and watch some of the video footage, because I know there is some video footage somewhere. I'm just not quite sure exactly what the focus was, whether or not he was able to get the conference footage or not. I really hope that he was. I was telling you, you should try to use your phone. If you've got a smartphone like an iPhone or an Android, you could have used a Ustream app, and I don't know, maybe plugged your phone into your laptop and used it as an external power source or something, and tried to do it that way. But it sounds like they were really giving him a hard time about the cost, and that's a shame. But I would have done my best to, out of spite, to cover it live in some way, shape, or form. But that's just me. But anyway, check out the Gun Rights Policy Conference stuff from Massad Ayoob. Day 1 and Day 2 are both out. If by the time I post the show notes and this show, if I find Day 3 in Google Reader, I'll include that for you to read as well. All right, well, I said this was kind of like the Massad Ayoob hour as far as the featured content goes. Now, I mentioned the Gun Rights Policy Conference Day 1 and Day 2 and potentially Day 3 by the time this airs. But the second piece from Mass is entitled Reflections on a World Championship. Now, recently there was the IDPA championships down in Florida, and I've been following Mass a little bit more than usual lately because he recently did a Mag 40 class with the gun dudes out in Utah, and a couple of the Gun Rights Radio Network guys were there, and there was a lot of mentions on Facebook and a lot of pictures and video from, or not so much video, but a lot of pictures and stuff from the events. And I was kind of following along, and it's been a lot of fun. And since then, a lot of the people that were at the event have been blogging about it and talking about it and podcasting about it, and it's been really interesting to follow along. Now, one of the gun dudes, I think it was Steve Koski, went to the IDPA World Championship in Florida, and Massad Ayoob and Gail were there as well from Pro Arms. And this is a little story on the event from Mass's perspective, and it's kind of funny because he says he gets into the groove, he starts the match, and he fires through the stage, and then he's getting ready for the mandatory unloading of the gun, where the safety officer watches the unload and calls says all clear and stuff like that. And so he says he fires at the last target. He's getting ready for the mandatory unload, and he's waiting and he's waiting and he's waiting, and he kind of turns around and looks, and there are people staring at him with something between stark pity and horror, and he realizes that he missed the target. He hadn't shot it yet. So he shoots the target, and then the stage ends, and he says he realizes that he's got no chance now because he's added so much time because he missed a target, and he was just standing there waiting to unload and show clear, that he didn't have a prayer to catch some of these other guys that were shooting. So I thought it was really interesting to see something like that happen with a masterclass shooter, and I don't know, it kind of it almost makes him like one of the guys. He's capable of making mistakes as well, and he takes a funny look at it. So it's really cool, and it makes him seem as though he's a real down-to-earth guy. And it was just a lot of fun to read that little story on the IDPA World Championships. So I would recommend you check it out, and maybe you can get a little laugh out of it as well. get a little laugh out of it as well. Ugh. Alright, so now it is time for the last piece of featured content, and I mentioned earlier that I wasn't quite sure whether I wanted to use this, or it's something that I wouldn't have normally done. And it's basically a meme which was going around on a variety of different gun blogs, and I joined in on it as well. And it was entitled something along the lines of "Take the knife out of your pocket and take a picture, post it." And there were a variety of people that have done it. So it was really difficult to use this as featured content because there were a variety of people that participated, and I thought, you know what? Well, which one do I want to feature? Well, that's kind of simple, because there's Miguel from Gun Free Zone. I've been talking to him here and there on Twitter. He seems like a really nice guy, and I thought, you know, why not just link to his meme post, and everyone can kind of go from there. And the reason being is I don't do this featured stuff in hopes that I'll mention someone and then I'll get a link back and I'll get traffic driven to my site over it. I do it just because I find this stuff interesting, and I think it's worth sharing with you, these variety of blog posts that I come across. And there are some sites that really appreciate it, and they'll say thank you and stuff, and I really appreciate that when I get a little thank you for doing this. It's not necessary, but it's nice. And then there are some blogs that I mention constantly, and I don't get a thank you. I don't even get as much as a response to a comment I leave on the blog, and sometimes it can get under your skin just a little bit. I mean, I don't take it to heart and I don't get upset about it, but it makes those thank yous mean a lot more. So I got to talking about Miguel after I mentioned his IDPA stage on the last podcast, and we've been talking a little bit back and forth about reloading and stuff like that, and it's been, he's been a real nice guy to talk to on Twitter, so I thought, what the hell, why not feature his blog post for the meme. But basically, it's just as it sounds. Take the knife out of your pocket and snap a picture of it. And through this meme, I got to see a lot of different knives. Now, I carry a Xikar 744 cigar cut knife. It's a quote-unquote gentleman's tool, and it's not meant for heavy-duty use. It holds a decent edge, but it doesn't last terribly long. I mean, it's good for opening cardboard boxes and cutting tape and things like that, and that's mostly what this knife sees as far as use goes. If I need to use it around the house for whatever reason, to pry something open or slice a piece of wood, the knife really shows its weakness there, and it dulls fairly fast, and I have to hit it with a diamond stone to sharpen it again. But I've been in the market for a new knife, and seeing this meme pop up, I really got to see a variety of different knives, from mid-level pricing to really expensive stuff that I can't afford to purchase and carry around on a daily basis. We're talking knives that were several $100s, but I'm not quite sure what I'm in the market for. I'm looking at maybe one of the SOG knives, as from a recommendation I saw on Twitter. There were several Spyderco knives throughout this meme that I'm really interested in looking at. I think the one that I'm kind of on the fence about is the Delica, because of the size, and I've been reading and watching YouTube videos on this knife, and it's priced about $55 from Amazon, so it's certainly doable, and I would feel comfortable spending $50-60 on a good solid knife that could see use on a semi-regular basis and still hold a good edge. So I'm looking to upgrade the Xikar knife, but for now it's what I carry, and it's what I'm pretty happy with. So check out the meme and look at the variety of blogs that participated in it, and check out some really cool knives and stuff. Alright, well, this is the part of the podcast where I talk about cigar and drink pairings. As I try to do in every episode, I want to keep this relatively short and just give you some basic information on the cigar that I'm smoking and the beverage that I'm pairing with it. Now, this segment is sponsored by StoGearReview.com. You'll see the little promo video with Brian Hewitt again. I'm trying to get some more in a different in a variety of videos so I can mix it up and you don't see the same one over and over and over and over again and get sick of it. But I'm in the process of trying to get some more. But this cigar comes courtesy of Mike over at Buckhead Cigar, and it is the San Lotano Oval. Now, I should probably time these a little better so that I don't have to pop the band off before I do the cigar and drink pairing portion, but at this point you'll probably see a little image pop up somewhere so that you can get a look at the cigar and the band. But the San Lotano cigar is made by AJ Fernandez. Now, AJ Fernandez is becoming a household name in the cigar industry. If you've ever ordered cigars online, chances are very, very good that you've ordered from Cigars International at one point in time or another, or at least looked at their stuff. They are one of the largest, if not the largest, internet retailer for cigars. And they have a line entitled, or a line that is called Man of War, and it comes in a variety of there's a variety of them. There's a Connecticut. There's, I think, just the Man of War original, which is sort of middle of the road in terms of body. There is the Man of War Ruination, which is on the high end. There is the Man of War, I think it's the Armada, which is a $20-some cigar. All of these are made by AJ Fernandez. There's another one that's Ave Maria, I think, which is, I believe, is a more milder to medium bodied. I haven't tried it, but again, another AJ Fernandez cigar. So he's got a really good foothold in Cigars International with these brands that do really, really well there. And I've had a couple of them, and they smoke really well. My favorite being the Man of War Ruination. But in addition to this Cigars International stuff, AJ Fernandez is also doing stuff that you can find in local brick and mortar shops, and the line that he's doing that with is called the San Lotano. Now, originally it came out with 3 different wrappers. I believe it's a Connecticut, a Habano, and a Maduro. Now, it's been a while since I've smoked one, and I don't remember which one was my favorite. I remember really liking one, and I thought the other 2 were pretty good. But the newest one to hit the San Lotano lineup is the Oval, which came out at this year's IPCPR trade show. Now, if you're watching this, you're a gun guy, and you're probably familiar with the SHOT Show. It's a big trade show where the firearm industry announces and shows off new product that's coming out the following year, or coming out post-show. It's the same thing in the cigar industry. IPCPR is where all of the new product is showcased, and it's based solely on retail stuff. So consumers don't go unless they get a pass. They don't go unless they get a press pass, or they have a brick and mortar shop that they're really friendly with, and they give them a pass to come along. It's based around retailers, and this is where a lot of the new product comes out. Well, the San Lotano Oval came out at this year's IPCPR trade show. Now, I've been hearing a lot of buzz about it. I didn't get to go to the trade show this year due to stuff going on at home. I had to pass, and I've been following coverage online relatively closely. Stogie Review did a ton of coverage, and I got to edit a lot of that, or not so much edit it, but post that stuff up and get to see it before it was all posted. But there was a lot of positive buzz around the San Lotano Oval, and I was really interested in trying it. I didn't get to go to the trade show. I couldn't find it locally. It's still pretty new. And all of a sudden I get a package today from Mike over at Buckhead with a pair of the San Lotano Oval in it. So, you know, immediately I want to light it up and smoke it and give it a try. So this is my first experience with the Oval, and I've got to say I'm really enjoying it. It's medium to full body. It coats the palate well. It's not overly powerful. It's got some punch through the sinus when you retrohale the smoke. On the palate, it's kind of soft and creamy. It's got a buttery texture, a buttery taste that I really like, and through the sinus, it's got some power. So it's got a little finesse up front, and then it really socks you in the sinuses on the way out. So I'm enjoying it quite a bit. I'm not pairing it with anything exciting. I felt like having something hot, so I brewed up a cup of Dunkin' Donuts Original from the Dunkin' Donuts Original out of a K-Cup. I have a Keurig brewer, and the pairing is going really well. I would really like to try this with some Zaya, which is, I don't remember whether it's Guatemalan rum or it was Guatemala. It may not be. I don't remember where it comes from, but it's a rum. It's really sweet, and it seems to really bring out the spicy note in cigars, and this has a spicy component through the sinus that I would really like to see paired with that particular rum. But you know, it's going really well with the coffee. So with that said, if you're interested in trying the San Lotano, It looks as though Mike from Buckhead has this particular cigar on sale. This is the Robusto, which is a 54 by 5.5, and a box of 20 will cost you $156.95. A bundle will cost you $145.95, and a 5-pack will cost you $41.95. Shipping is included in all those pricings, or in all those prices. And if you're interested, you can give Mike a call over at Buckhead at 404-844-0400. Mike will take care of you, and you'll get a pretty badass cigar for your money. Personally, I think it's a pretty good cigar. So again, Mike is my preferred retailer. I've ordered from him on numerous occasions. I'm really happy with the way Mike runs his business, the way he ships his cigars. Everything, it ships fast, it ships in great condition, and unlike a lot of the mail order retail or the online order houses or cigar retailers, when this stuff shows up, I can smoke it. A lot of the internet guys, when it shows up, it's got to sit and acclimate for a little while because it's been sitting in a warehouse. In this case, this stuff's coming right from Mike's humidor. It's packed really well. It's usually packed with Boveda packs or something similar to maintain humidity during the trip, and I have yet to get a cigar from Mike that I couldn't smoke right away. So give Mike a try. He is my preferred retailer, and show him some support.
Hey, it's Brian here from Stogie Review. If you like cigars, and I'll bet you do, how about you go over and check out StogieReview.com. Just, you know, it's a bunch of guys. We smoke a lot of cigars. We talk about them. We tell you what we think. You know, you can trust me because I'm wearing my thinking glasses. So check it out, StogieReview.com.
All right, well, this is the part of the show where I select a topic and just talk about it. This particular episode, it looks like I've got about 20 minutes max, and we may get fairly close to that because I'm kind of pumped up about this particular topic, and I gave you a little bit of a teaser about it last week. Now, last week I mentioned that I was meeting with a shooting instructor to refine my shooting techniques and see where I was at skill-wise so that I could begin advancing. And I did that yesterday. I went over to Topton Fish and Game, which is the club that I was mentioned last week that I was interested in joining, and I did some shooting. So I got together with the instructor at about 9 a.m. and we did a lot of talking at first. Loaded some magazines. We're talking about USPSA in general, some things that I should be aware of in the production division, and things that I need to focus on. And the instructor was telling me a lot of interesting things that I wasn't, you know, I was aware of, but I wasn't focusing on as much. I mean, leading up to this, when I went to the range, I was standing at the 10-yard line and I'm shooting at a torso target. And my biggest concern was how tight can I make those groups from a static position, you know, slow shooting and just focusing on each and every fundamental and going from there. And I was getting kind of stressed out over the size of my groups. And it's important to me to be able to shoot a small group. But at the same time, when I do compete in these USPSA matches, I'll be competing in one next weekend, you know, I need to be able to do things at a faster pace. You know, it's a game of speed and accuracy. So when we started shooting, there was a little bit of push involved. You know, it wasn't so much, okay, you know, take your time and do this. It was more, okay, do this as fast as you can and as accurately as you can. And, you know, we're going to push you until your groups start getting too wide. You know, we want, at the widest point, we want your groups in the A zone of this target. So he gets a timer ready. We get ready to go. He tells me what I'm doing. And the first drill is pretty simple. The buzzer goes off. I draw, mount the gun, press, and fire 2 clean shots into the A zone. So I do that, and he records my time. And he says, okay, well, that's, I think it was like 3 seconds or something like that. So we push a little bit harder, and I'm able to shoot faster than I thought I could and still maintain an A zone. And we did that a couple more times, and I'm shooting faster and faster until finally my groups are starting to spread out, and now I know my limits for shooting at this range with, you know, drawing and shooting as fast as I can at this particular range, and then we move to a target further away, and I do the same thing. Now I have to slow down because I need to focus more on the front sight because the target is farther away, and I need a clearer sight picture. And I get to see just how fast I can shoot at this range. And then we move to another target further away, and I'm getting a real interesting look at how fast I'm capable of shooting targets at different distances. And then after I get a feel for that, now we're working on transition. 2 in this target, 2 in this target, 2 in this target. And we're working with how fast I should push and in which order I should engage the targets. Usually he's telling me it's best to engage the closest one first. You can get on it fastest, get the shots broken, and then move from there. And it wound up being a ton of fun, and I got to see where a lot of my holes were, and one of those holes was transitioning from one target to the next. I seem to have a tendency to pull the gun and not break the shot before I completely stop. So the farther away the target was, the harder it was for me to hit, because I seem to be breaking shots in the direction of the swing. So that was one of the things I got to see, and I obviously need some work on that, but even so, it was pretty cool. Another problem that I was having was reloading. We did some reloading drills, and up until this point, it was really beat into my head that the muzzle of the gun always had to be pointed downrange in a safe direction at the berm. And you know, that caused some weird things with my reloads, and everyone keeps telling me you need to reload in the box, which is basically up in front of you. So when you're reloading, the gun comes up, kind of twist it, drop the mag, and insert the next mag all in front of your face, more or less, so that you can keep your eyes on target, and through peripheral vision you can see what you're doing with the gun and manipulating it. Well, as you're doing this, the muzzle is pointed up and over the berm, and it always kind of concerned me. But I had multiple people and the instructor tell me, you know, don't worry about that. The gun is unloaded. It's pointed in a safe direction. It's, you know, it's not pointed at anyone. You're not breaking the 180 rule, anything like that. Make sure you reload up in your field of view, you know, in the quote-unquote box. And that's a habit I need to break by dry fire practice. And the instructor's telling me, you know, wait till your wife goes to bed, or your daughter goes to bed, or your wife's out or busy or something, and stand with your legs up against your couch, and then work on your reloads. Just drop the magazines on the couch, or put a box on the floor and put a pillow in it, or do your reload drills with a pillow on the floor, so you're not banging up your magazines on your floor or anything like that, or on concrete. So that's something I need to work on, which was pretty cool. Another thing about the transitions that I noticed is, for whatever reason, as I'm transitioning, I'm twisting my wrist a little bit, and especially on long shots, when I go to focus on that front sight and get a good crisp picture, I notice I have to rotate my wrist back up. So another thing that I noticed that I didn't realize I was doing, shooting on the move does not feel natural at all to me. It feels really weird. And I feel like I'm fumbling with the gun, and my shots are very clunky because I want to shoot when both feet are on the ground and I'm firmly planted. So it's kind of weird because I take this hesitated, awkward step, and I don't know, it's just kind of weird placing my feet and breaking the shot while trying to move forward at the same time. And I get a lot of up and down movement, which means I need to crouch a little bit more, get a little bit more bend in my knees, and keep my upper body and my shooting platforms more stable. When I'm trying to shoot too fast, I have a tendency to get my support hand too high, and it causes my index finger to wrap around the trigger guard. And it was something that I noticed I was doing slow firing, but when I'm engaging targets faster, I don't seem to be doing it unless I'm moving too fast, and then it happens. And there was a couple of times when the instructor was pointing it out to me. So that's something I need to work on. I had mentioned that I was having trouble engaging targets at distance, or transitioning to targets at distance. the further away, the more trouble I had. And we were shooting a pretty small plate at 25 to 30 yards. If I wasn't pushing myself really fast, I wasn't having too much trouble hitting the target. At one point in time, the instructor had me stop and just slow fire at the target, and I could drill it at that point. So it was kind of a confidence booster to stop, be able to drill the target with multiple shots, and then get back into transitioning, and then I was able to hit to make the shots again. So it was pretty cool. Some of the things that I did really well was the instructor told me that I had a very smooth draw and press out, and my press out was nice and level. It was coming up high and straight out. I wasn't swinging the gun down on target or swinging the gun up on target. It was coming up and out well. My trigger pull seems to be good. My grip seems to be good in the event that I'm not trying to shoot too fast and I get my index finger wrapped up around the trigger guard. I'm able to shoot much faster at close distance than I thought was possible. By the time we were wrapping up, I was pressing the trigger far faster than I thought I was capable of doing, and I was still holding A's. So it was a real big eye-opener of where my abilities are. Another thing that I'm really happy with about this is I'm not intimidated by distance shots, and I don't know whether... I think part of that comes from some range trips I had with friends earlier on in my shooting. We would go up to the central Pennsylvania area, and a buddy of mine's got something like 550 acres. We go up to a cabin and set up a makeshift range on the property. The farthest shots were steel plates, about 12 by 12 out at 100 yards. And a lot of these guys are big rifle guys, and you know, they're shooting these plates at 100 yards with their SKSs and their AKs and things like that. And you know, they're having a blast. And my AK is horribly out of sight, and I just get frustrated with it. So I grab the pistols and I shoot the plates at 100 yards. And you know, I don't have... I can manage to hit the plate, even with... my little Beretta with a 3-inch barrel. I don't have much trouble hitting those plates at that distance, as long as I'm shooting slow and I'm focusing on the fundamentals, focusing on the front sight. So when it came time to shoot these small steel plates at, you know, 30, 35 yards, I wasn't intimidated at all, and I think that gave me a bit of an edge, because when I did my first USPSA match, there were some steel at distance, at, you know, maybe a 12 by 12 plate at 30, 40 yards. And it really wasn't a big deal for me. It didn't intimidate me, but some of the other people that were shooting at the match, they were complaining a lot about these distance targets. And although, you know, here I am, new shooter, I'm more concerned with the closer paper than I am those longer steel. I didn't have much trouble with those, and being able to do that with an instructor, and having him tell me that I did well with shooting small steel at distance was, you know, it put a giant grin on my face. So as a result, I had a great time with the instructor. I didn't do any recording of my shooting while I was out. There was a lot of talking involved, so it really didn't make a lot of sense to try to record a lot of my shooting. So I just left my contour camera in the bag. But it was a great time. I look forward to shooting some more. I'm going to be doing a USPSA match next weekend, and I'm curious to see where I fall as far as the rankings go for production class. I'm going to go have fun regardless. I don't care if I come in dead last or first place. I mean, I obviously I don't want to come in dead last, but you know, I'll be happy with some mid-range finish. And you know, it's looking like it's going to be tons and tons of fun. Later on next month, one of the local clubs is doing a 4-stage classifier, and I really want to get out to do that, which will allow me to be classified before the season is over. Right now I have a USPSA unclassified card. You need to shoot so many classifier stages before you get a classification, which I think is DC, BA, Master, and Grandmaster, or something like that. So based on my performance with the instructor, he feels as though I'll probably be high D or low C when I get classified at my current skill level. So once I get classified, then I can set up a goal for myself when I want to reach what classification and how soon. So I had a great time with the instructor, hoping to do it again at some point. He invited me out to some practice sessions that the guys do for USPSA, so I think I'm going to take him up on that offer and do some shooting and have some fun. So that's going to wrap up the show. I really appreciate you sitting through probably close to an hour at this point. And like usual, if you have any comments on this particular episode, you can comment away on my blog at waltonpa.com. There's also a comment field on YouTube. Feel free to use that. I would really appreciate a couple of iTunes reviews. My podcast is on iTunes. If you want to review it, that'd be great. I would really appreciate positive reviews, but if you have some constructive criticism you want to put on iTunes, hey, yeah, I'm open to that as well. If you need to get in touch with me for any reason, you can do so on Twitter at WaltW. If you want to reach me via email, it's walt@waltonpa.com. I'm on Google+. I'm on Facebook. Tons of ways to get in touch with me if you so choose. And again, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.